Article 74 says, there shall be a council of ministers with the Prime Minister as the head to aid and advise the President. To aid and advise the President. The post of Prime Minister of India as adopted from England model of the constitutional democracy. So, who will be the Prime Minister of India? The leader of the majority party in the election, Lok Sabha election, is appointed by the President as the Prime Minister. The other ministers are also appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister. If no party commands absolute majority in the Lok Sabha, then the President can summons the leader of any party who, in his opinion, can manage to form a ministry. Okay, children? That is the appointment of the Prime Minister. Now, let us know about the duties and functions of the Prime Minister. What are the duties? The Prime Minister decides the rank of the ministers and distributes various departments. First of all, immediately after the election, the Prime Ministers and the Council of Ministers are appointed by the President, and immediately the Prime Minister distributes the portfolios or departments to the ministers. The Prime Minister decides the dates and the agenda of the meeting of the cabinet which he presides. What do you mean by cabinet? It is a ministers, informal body of senior ministers, cabinet. They only decides all the matters. So, the Prime Minister decides the dates and the agenda of the meeting of the cabinet which he presides. So, the cabinet meeting is presided over by the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is the head of the cabinet and the other minister are his colleagues. Okay, children? And the Prime Minister informally, what do you mean by not formally? Informally consults 2 or 3 of his senior colleagues when he does not convene or summons a cabinet meeting. Suppose any emergency, if he could not convene a cabinet, the Prime Minister informally consults 2 or 3 of the senior ministers. The Prime Minister supervises the work of various ministers and to converse the President all decisions. It is the duty of the Prime Minister to converse to the President all the decisions of the Council of Ministers connecting to the government affairs, the union and the proposals for legislation. Next, the Prime Minister acts as the link between the President and the Council of Ministers. So, what is that? Whatever the matters relating to the governance, the Prime Minister immediately informed to the President. That is what it is saying. The Prime Minister acts as the link, okay, between President and the Council of Ministers. The Prime Minister is the leader of the nation and the chief spokespersons of the country. He is we know that about our Prime Minister, isn't it? He is all in all in our country. As the leader of the nation, the Prime Minister represents our nation at all international conferences like SAARC and Commonwealth Conference and G7, G8, likewise all international conferences. He will lead he will represent the international conferences. He will represent, or as a leader of the nation, the Prime Minister represent all the international conferences. Okay, children? Now let us know about the Council of Ministers. We have studied about Vice President, Prime Minister and the Council of. Now let us know about the Council of Ministers. After the elections, the President of India, on the advice of the Prime Minister, appoints the Council of Ministers, as I told you earlier. Okay, children? And now let us know the categories of the ministers. The ministers are classified under 3 rank. First one is cabinet minister. I told you cabinet president is the head of the cabinet ministers. It is an informal body of senior ministers and ministers of the states. First one cabinet minister, second one ministers of the state, third one deputy minister. Categories of the minister. Ministers are classified under 3 categories or 3 ranks: cabinet ministers, ministers of the state, deputy ministers. Okay, children? Now let us know cabinet ministers. The cabinet is an informal, not formal body, informal body of senior ministers who form the nucleus of the administration. All the decisions taken by President or Prime Minister with the consult of the cabinet ministers. Okay, children? And important decisions of the government are taken by the cabinet, such as defense, finance, external affairs, and home affairs. The cabinet recommends to the president to promulgate an ordinance. What is that ordinance? It is an emergency order. Ordinance means emergency order. It is, the cabinet is the instrumental in moving amendments. What do you mean by amendments? Changes in the constitution, in the laws to the constitution. The finance bills have their origin in the cabinet. Finance bill, not money bill. Money bill originate only in Lok Sabha, and finance bill have their origin in the cabinet, and then they are introduced in the Lok Sabha with the president's recommendation. The cabinet decides the foreign policy of the government, approves international treaties, and plays a significant role in the appointment of ambassadors to various countries. Okay, India is sending ambassadors to various countries. That is what about cabinet ministers. Next, ministers of the state. These ministers belong to the second category of ministers in the council. First category, cabinet minister. Second, state, ministers of the state. They are also in charge of ministers or departments, but they do not participate in meetings of the cabinet unless invited. They should not participate unless they invited by the cabinet ministers. Okay, children? Now let us know about the deputy ministers. They are the lowest ranked ministers in the cabinet. Deputy ministers are, deputy means assistant. Okay, deputy ministers, they are the lowest ranked ministers in the cabinet. They assist either the ministers of cabinet or state in the performance of the duties entrusted to them. Whatever the duties entrusted to them, they have to do. That is deputy ministers. Okay, children, that's all about our union executive. Now let us know about the union legislature.